The Forgotten Encounter. The wind howled through the dense forest, shaking the leaves of ancient trees that stood like silent witnesses. Alex sat on the porch of his small cabin, staring at the horizon. He was a man of simple habits, someone who sought solitude after years of chaos as a rescue worker. But tonight, something felt different, unsettling even. The air seemed heavier, charged with an energy he couldn't quite explain. For weeks now, Alex had been plagued by vivid dreams. A pair of glowing blue eyes would haunt him, accompanied by a voice whispering words he didn't understand. Each time he woke, his heart would pound, and his mind raced with fragments of a memory he couldn't fully grasp. He had chalked it up to exhaustion, or his overactive imagination. After all, his near-death experience during the landslide a decade ago still lingered in his thoughts like an unresolved puzzle. As he sipped his coffee, a flash of light lit up the night sky. At first, Alex thought it was a meteor, but the light grew brighter and closer, descending rapidly. It disappeared behind a line of trees with a faint hum. His heart skipped a beat. That wasn't natural. Grabbing a flashlight, he hesitated for a moment, debating whether to investigate. Curiosity won over caution, and he set out into the forest. The woods were eerily silent, the usual chorus of crickets and owls absent. Alex pushed through the undergrowth, following the faint glow that now pulsed between the trees. His mind raced with possibilities. A crashed drone. A top-secret experiment gone wrong. But as he neared the source, his breath caught. In the middle of a clearing stood a sleek, metallic craft. It shimmered under the moonlight, its surface smooth and almost alive, reflecting the surroundings like liquid silver. Alex froze, his instincts screaming at him to run, but his legs felt like lead. Before he could make a decision, the craft hissed softly, and a door slid open. A figure emerged, tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered faintly under the glow of the ship. Her features were humanoid but unmistakably alien. Large, almond-shaped eyes that glowed blue and hair that flowed like strands of molten silver. She looked at him, and to his astonishment, spoke his name. Alex. The voice sent a shiver down his spine. It wasn't just that she knew his name. It was the familiarity in her tone, as though she'd known him for years. Alex stumbled backward, his flashlight shaking in his hand. "Who? What are you?" he managed to stammer. The alien woman stepped closer, her movements graceful but deliberate. "You don't remember me, do you?" she asked, her voice soft yet commanding. "Remember you?" Alex's mind was spinning. "I've never seen you in my life." She tilted her head, studying him with an expression that was almost sad. 10 years ago, during the landslide. You saved me." Alex frowned. The landslide had been the most harrowing moment of his life. He had been part of a rescue team, pulling people from the rubble for hours. But an alien? That sounded absurd. "I think you've got the wrong person," he said, shaking his head. "No," she insisted. "You risked your life to help me escape. You didn't know what I was, but you didn't hesitate. I owe you my life." Before Alex could respond, the ground beneath them vibrated slightly. The alien woman's glowing eyes darted toward the forest. "They're coming," she said sharply. "Who's coming?" Alex asked, alarmed. She didn't answer. Instead, she held out her hand. "You have to trust me." Alex hesitated. This was insane. He didn't know her, didn't even understand half of what was happening. But something in her gaze, a mix of urgency and sincerity, compelled him to act. Against his better judgment, he took her hand. The moment their hands touched, a surge of warmth spread through him, and the world seemed to blur around the edges. "What are you doing?" he demanded, pulling back slightly. "I'm keeping you safe," she replied. "They've tracked my ship. If they find you with me, they'll think you're involved." "Who's they?" Alex asked again, his frustration growing. But before he could get an answer, bright beams of light cut through the forest. Voices shouted in the distance, followed by the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps. "Too late," she muttered. "Run." Alex barely had time to react before she pulled him into the shadows of the trees. They moved quickly, her strength and speed surprising him. He could hear the pursuers gaining ground, their shouts echoing through the forest. Whoever they were well organized and relentless. As they ducked behind a large rock, Alex finally managed to catch his breath. "Why are they after you?" he whispered. The alien woman looked at him, her glowing eyes intense. "Because I broke their rules. I came back for you." "For me?" Alex repeated, stunned. "Why?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Because your life is about to change in ways you can't imagine." Before Alex could press her further, the voices drew closer. The alien woman's expression hardened. "We need to move," she said firmly. "If they catch us, neither of us will survive." Alex nodded, his mind still reeling. Whoever this woman was, whatever she wanted, one thing was clear: his quiet life in the forest had just come to an end. The secret revealed. Alex's legs burned as he stumbled through the thick forest, branches clawing at his clothes and face. The alien woman, Litha, moved with ease, her tall figure gliding effortlessly over roots and rocks. Despite the chaos, she never let go of his hand, pulling him forward with an urgency that made his questions feel insignificant in the face of imminent danger. When they finally stopped, Alex leaned against a tree, gasping for air. "I can't keep up like this," he wheezed. Litha turned, her glowing blue eyes scanning the forest behind them, her features tense. "They're close," she muttered, her voice low but steady. She knelt and placed her hand on the ground. A faint, pulsing energy seemed to ripple outward. Alex watched, wide-eyed, as the glowing pulse disappeared into the earth. "What was that?" he asked, still struggling to catch his breath. "A barrier," she replied. "It won't stop them for long, but it'll slow them down." Alex's heart was racing, not just from the chase, but from the flood of questions swirling in his mind. "You need to start explaining. Who are you? Why are they chasing you? And what does any of this have to do with me?" Litha straightened, brushing dirt off her hands. "I told you before, I owe you my life. 10 years ago, during the landslide, you saved me." Alex shook his head. "I don't remember saving anyone who looked like you." "That's because I didn't look like this," Litha said, her voice tinged with something like regret. "I was camouflage. My kind can alter our appearance to blend in with other species." Alex's mind reeled. "You're telling me you were pretending to be human?" "Yes," she said simply. "I was stranded on Earth, far from my home. I was injured and alone. The landslide nearly killed me, but you risked your life to dig me out. You didn't know who or what I was, but you saved me anyway." Alex frowned, trying to recall the faces he had pulled from the rubble that day. It had been a blur of screams, blood, and dirt. He'd saved dozens of people, but none of them had glowing blue eyes or shimmering skin. "Why didn't you just leave after I saved you? Why come back now?" Litha hesitated, her gaze dropping to the forest floor. "I didn't just leave," she said softly. "I was forced to leave. My people found me and brought me back, but not before I left something behind." "Left what behind?" Alex asked, his voice rising. "And what does that have to do with me?" Before she could answer, the sound of approaching voices shattered the stillness. Litha's head snapped up. "We don't have time for this," she said, grabbing his arm. "We need to move." "No," Alex said, pulling away. "I'm not taking another step until you tell me what's going on." Litha glanced over her shoulder, her expression torn. "Fine," she said finally, "but you might wish you hadn't asked." She took a deep breath and began. "The day you saved me, you also saved something else. An artifact, something my people left on Earth long ago. It's powerful, dangerous, and it bonded to you. Bonded to me. Alex echoed, disbelief dripping from his voice. What does that even mean? It means the artifact chose you, Litha said. It recognized your courage, your selflessness. It marked you as its keeper. Alex stared at her, struggling to process her words. You're saying some alien artifact is what stuck to me. And now people are chasing you because of it. Not just people, Litha corrected. My people. They want the artifact back, but they know it can't be removed without your cooperation, or your death. Alex's stomach turned. That's why you're here, isn't it? To take it back. Litha's glowing eyes softened. No, she said. I'm here to protect you. The artifact is more powerful than you realize. If it falls into the wrong hands, it could destroy both our worlds. The weight of her words settled heavily on Alex's shoulders. He looked at her, searching her face for any hint of deception. Why should I believe you? You don't have to, Litha said. But if you don't trust me, you won't survive the night. Before Alex could respond, the distant hum of engines grew louder. Litha turned, her body tense. They've breached the barrier, she said. We need to go. Now. Reluctantly, Alex followed as she led him deeper into the forest. His mind was a storm of confusion and fear, but one thing was clear. Whatever he had stumbled into, there was no going back. A journey begins. The forest stretched endlessly, shadows playing tricks on Alex's already strained senses. Every step felt heavier, every breath tighter. Litha moved ahead of him, her movements impossibly graceful, even in the uneven terrain. Despite the fear gripping him, Alex couldn't shake the sense of awe. She wasn't human, that much was clear. Yet her resolve, her determination to protect him, felt deeply familiar. Where are we going? Alex asked, his voice breaking the eerie silence. To a safe place, Litha replied, her tone clipped. There's a location nearby I scouted before landing. We'll have a moment to regroup there. Alex frowned. Scouted? How long have you been planning this? Litha glanced over her shoulder, her glowing eyes reflecting an unreadable emotion. Long enough. Her cryptic answer did little to calm Alex's nerves. He stumbled over a root, cursing under his breath. This safe place better be worth it. It will be, she said, her voice steady. If we survive long enough to reach it. Her words sent a shiver down Alex's spine, but he didn't argue. The forest seemed alive with sounds now. Snapping branches, distant voices, the faint hum of drones overhead. Whoever was chasing them wasn't giving up easily. After what felt like hours, Litha stopped abruptly. Alex nearly collided with her. What is it? He asked, his heart pounding. We're here, she said, gesturing to a rocky outcrop partially hidden by thick vines. She pressed her hand against the stone, and a soft blue light spread outward, illuminating an entrance that had been invisible moments before. What is this? Alex asked, staring in disbelief. A sanctuary, Litha said, stepping inside. Come quickly. Alex hesitated but followed. Inside, the temperature dropped noticeably, and the air smelled faintly of metal and earth. The space was larger than he'd expected, with smooth walls that seemed to hum faintly. A single orb hovered in the center, casting a soft glow. This is your idea of safe? Alex asked, his voice echoing slightly. For now, Litha replied. She moved to the orb, placing her hand on it. The glow intensified, and suddenly, holographic images filled the room. Maps, symbols, and streams of data Alex couldn't begin to comprehend. What is all this? He asked, overwhelmed. Information, Litha said, about the artifact, about the people chasing us, and about you. Me? Alex's stomach twisted. What do you mean, me? Litha turned to face him, her expression serious. The artifact bonded with you. That's rare, almost unheard of. My people have been searching for it for centuries, but it chose you. Why? Alex asked, frustration lacing his voice. Why me? I didn't ask for this. No one does, Litha said softly. But the artifact doesn't choose randomly. It saw something in you, a quality, a strength that made it trust you. Alex laughed bitterly. Trust me. I'm a guy who lives in the middle of nowhere and avoids people as much as possible. I'm not exactly hero material. Litha stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. You saved me without hesitation, without knowing who I was or what I could do. That selflessness is rare. The artifact saw it, and now it sees you as its keeper. Alex looked away, the weight of her words pressing down on him. So, what now? I just keep running forever. No, Litha said firmly. We fight back. Fight back. Alex echoed. With what? I don't have weapons, training. Heck, I don't even know what's going on half the time. You have the artifact, Litha said, as though it were the most obvious thing in the world. It's powerful, but it needs a connection to work. That connection is you. Alex shook his head. This is insane. Insane or not, it's the truth, Litha said. If the people chasing us get their hands on the artifact, they'll use it to dominate not just Earth, but countless other worlds. You've seen what they're capable of. They won't stop until they have it. Alex stared at her, the reality of his situation sinking in. And you? Why are you helping me? Litha hesitated. Because I owe you my life. And because I believe in you. Her words surprised him. For someone who wasn't human, she seemed to understand humanity better than most people he'd met. So, what's the plan? He asked, his voice steadier now. Litha smiled faintly. First, we get you to understand the artifact. Then, we find a way to stop them. Alex nodded, the fear in his chest giving way to a flicker of determination. He didn't fully understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. He wasn't alone in this fight. And for the first time, he felt like maybe, just maybe, he could make a difference. But as the hum of drones grew louder outside, he couldn't help but wonder if they'd survive long enough to try. The hidden artifact. The entrance to the cave loomed like a gaping mouth, dark and foreboding. Alex hesitated at the threshold, gripping the flashlight Litha had given him. This place, he muttered, his voice echoing faintly. I've been here before. Litha nodded, her glowing blue eyes scanning the rocky surroundings. You have. This is where it all started. Alex frowned. The cave looked familiar, but his memories were hazy, like fragments of a dream he couldn't piece together. I used to come here as a kid. My friends, and I thought it was haunted. Weird noises, strange lights. We never stayed long. That wasn't your imagination, Litha said, stepping inside. The soft glow emanating from her skin illuminated the jagged walls. The artifact was here, dormant, waiting for someone to awaken it. And that someone was me. Alex said, his voice dripping with disbelief. Great. Litha turned to him, her expression serious. It wasn't an accident, Alex. The artifact chose you for a reason. Now we need to retrieve it before they do. They? Alex echoed. You mean the people chasing us? Not just them, Litha said grimly. Others. My people. If they find the artifact, they'll do whatever it takes to claim it, even if it means killing you. Alex swallowed hard. Well, that's comforting. They ventured deeper into the cave, the air growing cooler and heavier with each step. Strange symbols etched into the walls glowed faintly as they passed, pulsing in rhythm with their footsteps. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the cave was alive, watching them. How much farther? He asked, his voice a whisper. Not far, Litha replied. The artifact is in the heart of the cave, hidden in a protective chamber. As they rounded a corner, the path opened into a vast cavern. Stalactites hummed like frozen daggers from the ceiling, and a faint otherworldly hum filled the air. At the center of the cavern, a pedestal rose from the ground, and atop it rested a glowing orb. Its light shifted and pulsed, casting eerie patterns on the walls. Alex stopped in his tracks. "That's it?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Litha nodded. "That's it." The orb was mesmerizing, its surface swirling with colors that seemed to defy description. Alex felt an inexplicable pull toward it, as though it were calling to him. He took a hesitant step forward, but Litha grabbed his arm. "Wait," she said sharply. "The artifact is powerful, but it's also dangerous. Touching it without preparation could kill you." Alex froze, his heart pounding. "Then how do we?" Litha reached into her bag and pulled out a small device that looked like a metallic gauntlet. "This will help contain its energy. Once I activate it, you'll be able to hold the artifact safely." She placed the device on his arm, and it clamped into place with a faint click. Alex flinched. "What if this thing doesn't work?" "It will," Litha said, though her tone held a hint of doubt. "Just focus on staying calm. The artifact responds to emotions." "Great," Alex muttered. "No pressure." Litha pressed a button on the device, and it began to hum softly. She gestured toward the pedestal. "Now go." Alex approached the artifact, each step feeling heavier than the last. The hum grew louder, resonating in his chest. When he reached the pedestal, he hesitated, his hand hovering over the orb. "Alex," Litha called, her voice steady. "Trust yourself. You can do this." Taking a deep breath, Alex reached out and touched the artifact. The moment his fingers made contact, a surge of energy shot through him, and his vision blurred. Images flashed before his eyes. Alien landscapes, towering cities, and endless stars. He felt as though he were being pulled into the artifact, his mind flooded with knowledge he couldn't comprehend. "Alex," Litha's voice cut through the chaos. "Stay with me. Focus." He clenched his teeth, forcing himself to concentrate. Slowly, the swirling energy calmed, and the artifact's glow dimmed. When he opened his eyes, the orb was no longer on the pedestal. It was in his hands. Litha let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "You did it," she said, relief evident in her voice. Alex stared at the artifact, his hands trembling. What is this thing?" he asked. "It's a piece of Kyrian technology," Litha explained. "A weapon, a source of energy, a key. It's all of those things and more. In the wrong hands, it could destroy worlds." "And now it's in my hands," Alex said, his voice heavy with realization. Before Litha could respond, a sharp noise echoed through the cavern. The sound of footsteps. Litha's eyes widened. "They're here," she said urgently. "We need to move." Alex nodded, clutching the artifact tightly. As they turned to leave, the cavern trembled, dust and rocks falling from the ceiling. The artifact pulsed in his hands, as though reacting to the threat. "Hold on to it," Litha said, pulling him toward the exit. "Whatever happens, don't let go." As they ran, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the artifact was more than just an object. It was alive, and it had chosen him. But why? And at what cost? The question swirled in his mind as they disappeared into the darkness, the sound of their pursuers growing ever closer. The chase. The night was alive with chaos. The forest, once a sanctuary of solitude, had become a labyrinth of danger. Alex clutched the artifact tightly, its faint glow illuminating his path as he sprinted through the undergrowth. Litha was ahead, her movements fluid and purposeful, but even she couldn't disguise the urgency in her every step. Behind them, the hum of drones grew louder, accompanied by distant shouts. Whoever was chasing them wasn't far behind, and they weren't holding back. "Faster," Litha urged, glancing back at Alex. Her glowing eyes scanned the shadows, searching for signs of their pursuers. "They're closing in." "I'm trying." Alex shot back, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His legs burned, his chest ached, but the artifact in his hands felt strangely weightless, as though it was urging him forward. A sudden burst of light illuminated the forest, and Alex stumbled, shielding his eyes. One of the drones had found them, its spotlight cutting through the trees like a blade. Down. Litha hissed, pulling Alex into the underbrush. The two of them crouched low, the cold earth pressing against their skin as the drone hovered overhead. Its mechanical whirring was deafening, a reminder of the advanced technology they were up against. "What now?" Alex whispered, his voice barely audible over the noise. Litha didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pulled a small device from her belt, a sleek, metallic cylinder with a faint blue glow. She pressed a button, and the device emitted a high-pitched sound that made Alex's ears ring. The drone's light flickered, then went out, and the machine crashed to the ground with a metallic thud. "Let's move," Litha said, rising to her feet. Alex followed, his heart pounding. They didn't get far before more lights appeared in the distance. This time, it wasn't just drones. There were figures, armed, and moving in formation. Alex's stomach twisted. These weren't ordinary pursuers, they were professionals. "Who are these people?" he asked as they ducked behind a large tree. Litha's expression was grim. "They're a faction of my people. Rogues. They want the artifact for themselves, and they'll stop at nothing to get it." "Your people?" Alex repeated, incredulous. "Aren't they supposed to be on your side?" Litha shook her head. "Not all of them. The artifact represents power, more power than most can imagine. It's a temptation few can resist." Alex gritted his teeth. "And I'm just caught in the middle of this." "You're more than that," Litha said, her tone firm. "The artifact chose you for a reason, Alex. You're not just a bystander. You're its keeper." Her words were little comfort as another drone appeared, its spotlight sweeping the forest. Litha grabbed Alex's arm, pulling him deeper into the shadows. "This way," she said, leading him toward a rocky incline. The terrain was steep and uneven, but it provided cover. As they climbed, Alex could hear the voices of their pursuers growing louder. "They're everywhere," he said, his voice tinged with panic. Litha stopped suddenly, her eyes narrowing. "Give me the artifact." "What?" Alex said, clutching it tighter. "Why?" "It's reacting to you," Litha explained. "Your emotions are amplifying its energy. If they get close enough, they'll be able to track it." Alex hesitated. The artifact's glow pulsed in his hands, as if it were alive. Reluctantly, he handed it to her. The moment she touched it, the glow dimmed and the hum quieted. "Better," she said. "Now let's keep moving." They climbed higher, the rocky terrain slowing their pursuers. When they reached a plateau, Litha stopped and turned to face Alex. "We're running out of time," she said. "We can't keep evading them forever." "Then what do we do?" Alex asked, his voice laced with desperation. Litha's eyes softened. "You need to use the artifact." Alex stared at her. "Use it? How? You said it's dangerous." "It is," Litha admitted. "But it's also your best chance. The artifact is bonded to you. It responds to your will. You just need to focus." "Focus on what?" Alex demanded. "I don't even know what this thing does." "Focus on what you need," Litha said, her voice steady. "The artifact will do the rest." Before Alex could argue, the sound of footsteps and voices reached them. Their pursuers had caught up. "Now, Alex," Litha urged, placing the artifact back in his hands. Alex closed his eyes, his mind racing. He didn't know what he was doing, but he tried to block out the fear and confusion. He focused on one thing: safety. The artifact's glow intensified, its hum growing louder. Suddenly, a wave of energy burst from it, rippling outward. Alex opened his eyes to see their pursuers thrown backward, their weapons scattered. The drones crashed to the ground, their lights extinguished. Alex stared at the artifact in his hands, its glow now soft and steady. What just happened?" "You tapped into its power," Litha said, her expression a mix of relief and awe. "You protected us." Alex's knees buckled, and he sank to the ground. The artifact felt heavier now, its energy draining him. "I don't think I can do that again." "You won't have to," Litha said, kneeling beside him. "Not yet, but this is only the beginning, Alex. The artifact chose you for a reason, and you're stronger than you realize." As the dust settled and the forest grew quiet once more, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that his life had changed forever. He wasn't just running anymore. He was part of something far bigger than himself. And for better or worse, there was no turning back. The ultimatum. The dim glow of dawn began to seep through the forest canopy, casting long shadows over the rocky clearing where Alex and Litha had finally stopped to rest. The night had been a blur of running, hiding, and fighting, and Alex's entire body ached. The artifact sat between them, its soft glow pulsating like a heartbeat. It seemed to hum faintly, as if aware of the tension in the air. Alex leaned against a boulder, his head tilted back, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. "Tell me there's a plan," he said, his voice hoarse. Litha, standing a few feet away, was scanning the horizon. Her glowing blue eyes darted between the trees, her body tense. "There is," she said finally, but there was hesitation in her tone. Alex frowned. "You don't sound confident." She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "Because the plan isn't without risks. It's complicated. Everything about this has been complicated," Alex said with a bitter laugh. "What's one more thing?" Litha stepped closer, crouching so they were at eye level. "My people have sent a message. They've offered an ultimatum." Alex's stomach twisted. "What kind of ultimatum?" "They want the artifact," Litha said, her voice heavy. "If I surrender it, they promise to leave you alone. If I don't..." She trailed off, her gaze dropping to the ground. Alex sat up straighter. "If you don't, what?" "They'll escalate," Litha said. "They'll send more soldiers, more drones, more weapons. They'll stop at nothing until they have it. And you." Alex felt a cold dread settle over him. "So what's the plan? Hand it over and hope they keep their word." Litha shook her head. "No, we can't give it to them. They'll use it to consolidate power, to dominate other worlds. The artifact is too dangerous in their hands." "Then what do we do?" Alex asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "We can't keep running forever, Litha." "I know," she said, her tone softening. "That's why we have to destroy it." Alex stared at her, stunned. "Destroy it? You just said it's the most powerful thing in the universe, and now you want to blow it up." "It's the only way," Litha said firmly. "The artifact is too powerful for anyone to control. If we destroy it, we take it out of play permanently." "And how exactly do we do that?" Alex asked. "This thing doesn't exactly come with an off switch." Litha hesitated, her expression grim. "There's a failsafe built into the artifact, a way to overload its energy and cause it to self-destruct." Alex's heart sank. "That sounds dangerous." "It is," Litha admitted. "The energy release will be massive. It could destroy everything within a several-mile radius." Alex's mind raced. "So, what, we just set it off and hope we're far enough away not to get vaporized?" "No," Litha said. "One of us will have to stay close to ensure it activates properly." Alex froze, the implications of her words sinking in. "You're talking about a suicide mission." Litha didn't deny it. "It's the only way to ensure the artifact is destroyed." Alex stood, his fists clenched. "No, absolutely not. There has to be another way." "There isn't," Litha said, her voice steady. "I'm the one who brought you into this. I'm the one who has to see it through." "No," Alex said again, his voice rising. "You can't just sacrifice yourself like that. There has to be another option." Litha stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Alex, this isn't just about you or me. It's about protecting countless lives. If the artifact falls into the wrong hands, the consequences will be catastrophic. Alex looked away, his jaw tight. "Why me?" he muttered. "Why did this thing have to pick me?" "Because it saw something in you," Litha said gently. "Something rare. Courage, selflessness. You've already risked your life to protect others. The artifact chose you because it knew you could handle the responsibility." Alex met her gaze, his eyes filled with anger and frustration. "And what about you? You've done everything to protect me. Doesn't that mean you're just as important?" Litha smiled faintly. "I've lived a long time, Alex, longer than you can imagine. My purpose has always been to serve and protect. If this is how I fulfill that purpose, then so be it." Alex shook his head. "No, I won't let you do this." Before Litha could respond, the sound of approaching engines shattered the moment. The ground vibrated beneath their feet, and beams of light pierced the forest. Their pursuers had found them again. Litha's expression hardened. "We don't have time to argue. We need to move." Alex grabbed the artifact, its glow intensifying as if sensing the danger. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, but one thing was clear. He wasn't ready to lose her. Not like this. As they ran, the ultimatum hung heavy in the air. The decision loomed, and Alex knew that whatever choice they made, it would change everything. The final stand. The air was electric with tension as Alex and Litha reached the summit of a rocky outcrop overlooking the dense forest. The artifact, now glowing with an almost blinding intensity, pulsed in Alex's hands. It seemed alive, as if it too could feel the weight of the moment. Below them, the hum of approaching engines and the shouts of their pursuers grew louder. The enemy was closing in. "This is it," Litha said, her voice steady but tinged with a sadness Alex hadn't heard before. "We're out of time." Alex set the artifact down carefully on a flat rock, its light casting eerie shadows on their faces. He turned to her, his jaw tight. "You're really going to do this, aren't you?" Litha nodded. "It's the only way. If the artifact falls into their hands, it won't just be Earth that suffers. Entire worlds will be enslaved, destroyed. But why does it have to be you?" Alex asked, his voice breaking. "You've done everything to protect me, to protect this planet. Why do you have to be the one to sacrifice yourself?" "Because it's my responsibility," Litha said firmly. "I brought this fight here. I owe it to you, and to everyone, to make sure it ends." Alex shook his head, his fists clenched. "No, I'm not going to let you throw your life away. We'll find another way." "There is no other way," Litha said, her tone softening. "This is the only chance we have to destroy the artifact and stop them for good." Before Alex could argue further, a deafening roar filled the air. A massive ship descended from the sky, its sleek, metallic surface gleaming in the dawn light. From its belly, soldiers in black armor descended, their weapons trained on the pair. Litha stepped in front of Alex, her glowing eyes narrowing. "Stay behind me." "No," Alex said, stepping forward. "Not this time." Litha turned to him, her expression a mix of frustration and concern. "Alex." He cut her off. "You said the artifact chose me because of my courage, right? Because I'm willing to do the right thing, no matter the cost." "Yes," Litha said, her voice hesitant. "Then let me prove it," Alex said, his voice resolute. He picked up the artifact, its energy surging at his touch. "You don't have to do this alone." "Alex, stop trying to protect me," he shouted. "I'm not some helpless bystander. If we're going to end this, we end it together." Litha stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Together." The soldiers advanced, their leader, a towering figure in dark, flowing robes, stepping forward. His voice boomed, amplified by some unseen device. "Surrender the artifact, and we will spare your lives." Litha stepped forward, her voice sharp. "You and I both know that's a lie." The leader chuckled, a cold, menacing sound. "So be it. Take them." The The soldiers surged forward, their weapons firing bolts of energy. Litha moved with lightning speed, her movements a blur as she deflected the blasts with her own advanced tech. Alex stood behind her, clutching the artifact tightly, its hum growing louder with each passing second. "Alex," Litha called out. "The failsafe. Activated now." Alex glanced at the artifact, its swirling light hypnotic. He could feel its power coursing through him, filling him with both awe and dread. "What happens if I do this?" "You'll unleash its full energy," Litha said, her voice strained as she fought off the advancing soldiers. "It'll destroy everything within range, including us." Alex's heart pounded. He looked at Litha, her silver hair shimmering as she fought to protect him. He looked at the soldiers, their weapons firing relentlessly. And then he looked at the artifact, its light seeming to pulse in time with his heartbeat. He made his decision. "Get clear," Alex shouted. Litha hesitated, her glowing eyes locking with his. "Alex, no. Just go," he yelled. "I'll finish this." Before she could argue, Alex placed both hands on the artifact. The moment he did, a surge of energy shot through him, and the world seemed to fade away. He was no longer in the forest. He was standing in a vast, infinite space filled with light and stars. A voice echoed in his mind. "You are the keeper. Do you accept your purpose?" "Yes," Alex said, his voice firm. "But I need you to help me protect her." The artifact pulsed, its light growing brighter. "Your bond is strong. Your will is pure. It will be done." Back in the real world, the artifact began to glow brighter and brighter, its energy building to a crescendo. Litha, still fighting off the soldiers, turned to see Alex standing at the center of the clearing, the artifact radiating light. "No," she cried, rushing toward him. But before she could reach him, the artifact released a massive wave of energy. The soldiers were thrown backward, their weapons disintegrating in their hands. The ship above them crackled with electricity before exploding in a brilliant flash. When the light faded, the forest was silent. The artifact was gone, reduced to a faint shimmer in the air. Alex stood at the center of the clearing, his knees buckling as he collapsed to the ground. Litha rushed to his side, her hands trembling as she helped him sit up. "Alex, what did you do?" "I made a deal," Alex said weakly, a faint smile on his lips. "The artifact, it's gone. It destroyed itself." "And you?" Litha asked, her voice breaking. "Are you?" "I'm fine," Alex said, though he felt like every part of him had been drained. "But I think it's over." Litha pulled him into an embrace, her usually calm demeanor cracking. "You saved us," she whispered. "You saved everyone." Alex leaned against her, exhaustion overtaking him. "Guess it's your turn to protect me now." Litha smiled, a rare expression of warmth crossing her face. "Always." As the sun rose over the forest, the two of them sat together, the weight of their ordeal finally lifting. For the first time in what felt like forever, Alex felt a sense of peace. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. They had won. Together.